Hello and welcome to the Penalty Box Perspective podcast. My name's Nathaniel and I'm joined once again by my good friend Matt. How are you doing today?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very good. Very good. Ready to talk some more hockey. Ready to break down another week of NHL action.
Absolutely, and what a week it's been, especially for a certain team of my love and support. Where we've done extremely well, and I can't wait to talk about it. Oh, happiness returns. It's crazy how much your mood is reliant upon how well your sports team does. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? There's an aspect to me that, people who aren't sports fans, it's like, oh, how nice must it be to just live a life where your mood isn't dictated by, people playing a sport that you have absolutely no control over. But I also wouldn't change being a sports fan for anything in the world.
No. But there are people who get invested in sort of soap operas like Coronation Street and EastEnders, and I don't understand those people. So I'm sure those people don't understand us, and we don't understand them. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same page about having a ridiculous passion about something.
One way or
Um,
another, yeah.
yeah, I had no idea I'd be bringing up EastEnders in this episode, but there we go. It's how things go. Um, no, again, I think there's no sort of being specific general news that we'll cover before we go ahead. Obviously, if anything team specific comes up, we'll talk about it in each sort of segment there, I think. But without much further ado, we'll go into the best division in hockey, the Central Division. And with that, the best team in hockey at the moment, the Colorado Avalanche. What do you think about their week?
Well, 3 games played, 3 wins, 2 shutouts. Colorado Avalanche are a joke this year, an absolute joke. Yeah, look, I don't even think we need to spend too long on this team. They're kicking the ass of everyone up and down the league. A 6-3 win against the Rangers, and then back-to-back shutouts, 3-0 against the Predators, and a 1-0 win against the Blackhawks last night. Yeah, they've got fantastic goaltending, double wood, looking good. McKinnon and McCarr performing as you would, expect from them this year. McKinnon's on 37 points in 22 games for the season. And you look at them coming up with the Sharks, the Wild, and the Habs. I don't even think there is a difficult stretch of games for this team at the moment. I think they're capable of bulldozing just about every team in this division.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we go on to talk about later divisions with teams topping them with like a negative plus minus, you got Colorado sat on a plus 38 after 22 games. It's just steamrolling, one loss in regulation, all the big name, 3 players over a point per game. It's just impossible to count this team out. Yeah, it's just easy straight into it, and I'm loving having several of their players on my fantasy team. I tell you that they're going to hold up all season for me. I hope. But yeah, 37 points in 22 games as well. Incredible.
Yeah, just sensational, sensational. They could go on to have potentially an all time, potential record breaking season here.
Yeah. And who's there to stop them? I mean, second place, the Dallas Stars with 30 points, so 7 points behind. They could literally take next week off, just forfeit every game, and they still be atop of this division next week, Colorado. But anyway, the Dallas Stars, yeah, second in division, second in our updated power rankings. Colorado is obviously number one, with a record of 13-5-4. They've had the epitome 3-3 week.
Yeah. Them and seemingly everyone else around the league week in, week out. Yeah, a 3-2 loss to the Islanders before a 4-2 victory against the Canucks and a shootout loss against the Flames, which I think they'd probably want back. But look, the Dallas Stars are second ranked in our power rankings for a reason. They've been great. Another really strong week from Jason Robertson. He's on 28 points in 22 games for the year. They've got the Oilers, the Kraken coming up on the road before the Mammoth and the Senators coming up at home. I just want to sort of run something by you. What is going on with Mikko Rantanen at the moment? Is he just having a bad week? Is he, he is on an absolute tear with his physical play, shall we say?
I think he's getting bored of playing at the minute. Bunch. Uh,
It's just
yeah, it's. I mean, on the face of it, he's had 2 game misconducts in a week, but the one against the Islanders, which is actually knocked Romanov out for several months. Now, looking at the replay, it was all high and mighty, big bluster. You got Nicholas Roy on the bench shouting him that he's not going to finish the game in New York when they go back. But in actual fact, he got skew-footed, got sort of tripped up, and he sort of fell more into Romanov. And you think, oh, we kind of have to give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt with this. And then he goes up against the Flames and absolutely sends Coronato into the shadow realm, into that board. You
Yeah.
just think, you've just lost all sympathy there, mate. You can't come back from that.
Yeah, whilst there might have been some benefit of the doubt in that Islanders game, there is absolutely no benefit of the doubt being offered for that hit on Coronato. I was expecting him to just turn into a pile of dust when he's he's absolutely. I mean, there's boarding, and then there's whatever that was. Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't know if Rantanen's just feeling a little bit hot under the collar at the moment, but yeah, he's playing physical, shall we say?
Yeah, but not producing the points. Not this week, anyway. I mean, he's still got 28 in 22 games. He's gonna miss the game against the Oilers next week, coming up because of the 1 game suspension. So, I mean, for me, it could have been more with that hit on Coronato. If I'm honest, that was just awful. Not what we want in the game, but that they are where they are. And this is what's sort of frustrating about Dallas is they've got the star players, they've got the team, etc. And they're just not quite. They could be up there with Colorado, but they're not because of issues like this.
Yeah, there is that. But yeah, I think he maybe just needs a bit of a dressing down and talking to, and potentially if the Stars go out and lose that game to the Oilers, whilst he's kind of sat watching from the stands, then maybe that puts a bit of perspective to him, and maybe he realizes that he needs to be a leader on this team and do better. But yeah, he'll certainly have a game to sit and think about it.
But Robertson's had a good week. 4 goals, 1 assist. Seguin as well with 3 assists coming in. Great goaltending. It is a good team. Other players on the team are performing as expected. And after the trip to Edmonton, they also go on to face Seattle before coming back and playing the Utah Mammoth and the Ottawa Senators at home. So they've got a busy week ahead. But yeah, they're still sitting pretty in second spot, sort of cementing. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Nathaniel, let's not dawdle on the Dallas Stars any longer. Let's let the Glaze Fest begin.
Oh, the Minnesota Wild are back. Probably the only team who could face up to Colorado this week in terms of results. Three games, 3 wins in a week. We thought they would get absolutely smacked, whichever one you wanted to say.
Spanked.
But they started off with they start off with a shootout win against the Hurricanes. Great team performance, fighting back and beating what is a very good team there. They then go and absolutely destroy the Penguins in Pittsburgh 5-0. And Gustafsson getting a shutout. And then last night, what a game. At Winnipeg, haven't beaten them since 2023. They beat them 3-0 and yet another shutout, this time for Wallstedt. This goalkeeping tandem in their games, Gustafsson has 2 shutouts, Wallstedt has 3 shutouts in 8 games and is on a sub-2 game goals against average. Is it too early to say we're back? I think it's definitely been an amazing week, but as much as I want to get excited, I'm also the pessimism in me saying, no, it's not. It's too good to be true.
Yeah, well, you have to go to the United Center and face the Blackhawks next, so we'll see what happens there. And then you've got the Colorado Avalanche afterwards. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Look, it's been a fantastic week for Minnesota, and I've watched the results coming in, and I've been like, you know what? I'm so happy for Nathaniel because it makes my life a whole lot easier when Minnesota are good. Um, I just love that Gustafsson Wallstedt tandem. I think they've done so well this year. You know, 3 shutouts on 8 games played from Wallstedt this year is just unbelievable. He's at a 935 save percentage on the year. What a season he's having, and him and Gustafsson they're going to be battling it out for that top spot, and someone's going to take it, or alternatively, you split them 50-50, and you just have an absolute elite tandem there. But no, I'm very happy for you that Minnesota are where they are. You just take it week by week. Get high, try not to get too high with the highs. Don't get too low with the lows. And shout out to Seth at Locked On Wild as well. I'm sure he's been having a terrific week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think talking hockey about it rather than just fandom. I think the return of Matt Zuccarello to this lineup has been great for Kaprizov and Baldy. And we've had injuries to our centres. We're playing Danilo Yorov, who a few weeks ago in our bad stretch was getting scratched or like just not playing because John Hines didn't trust him. And now he's playing first line minutes and he's getting him there with the points. He seems like a natural fit. But I think Zuccarello's the glue to this team that just helps other players just play better, it seems. And even though he's getting on a bit in age, he seems like he's not getting any older.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. He's kind of rolling back the years, isn't he? And he's been a real nice return, welcome return to that Minnesota lineup. So yeah, hopefully he can stay on the ice and stay healthy, and because he seems to make everyone else around him better. Really nice complementary piece.
Yeah. I could talk about that team all day, but let's not, shall we? We'll see how they get on against the Avalanche. That's going to be such a great game. I feel like for two hot teams, I still think we'll get smashed, but we'll see. But the fourth team in this division, still sticking around, albeit by tenterhooks, really, is the Utah Mammoth. They're up 2 spots this week. They've had a busy week, 4 games going against the Ducks and the Sharks before playing at home against the Golden Knights and Rangers, but they've lost 2 in overtime to the Ducks and the Sharks, lost in regulation to the Golden Knights, and then beat the Rangers 3-2 at home. So, what are your thoughts on the Utah Mammoth?
They're just doing enough, aren't they? They're just doing enough to stick around and make it interesting. Yeah, 4 points from the 4 games will keep them there. Again, kind of slightly poor goaltending, maybe letting them down in places. But they've ended that run of games with with a 3-2 victory against the Rangers. So really good for them. 3 goals on the week for JJ Paterka and Matt's fantasy team, as well as a goal and 3 assists for Schmidt as well. So yeah, good week for him. They've got another game against the Golden Knights at home, as well as the Montreal Canadiens, before they then go on the road to the Dallas Stars and the St. Louis Blues. So again, I could kind of see it being a bit more of the same for Utah, and I think they will hang in there another week and live to fight another day.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been in most of the games, haven't they? Even the overtime losses, they come back from 2-0 down against the Sharks and they squandered the lead to the Ducks. But I think they're going to be thereabouts the whole year at this rate. Not good enough to make a big push, but still going to be interesting nonetheless. And Schmaltz still hasn't signed, and I got it right. Schmaltz still hasn't signed a contract, I don't believe.
Not to my knowledge, no.
No. Okay, so a bit of a surprise team dropped off after a bit of a poor week, but in 5th in this division are the Winnipeg Jets. What's gone wrong with the Jets this week?
Well, they are missing Connor Hellebuck. He's going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I think, Comrie's just not had a brilliant week, has he? We did say potentially that the Jets were maybe overusing Hellebuck a little bit and maybe needed to look at rotating him out a little bit. Unfortunately, now they're in a position where he's now hurt. So, yeah, they beat the Blue Jackets 5-2 and then lost 4-3 to the Hurricanes in a close game before losing 3-0 to the Minnesota Wild. So, yeah, they're having a bit of a struggle, a bit of a poor week, and they're just going to have to find a way of bouncing back. And when you've got a slightly shakier goaltender behind you, one that you're maybe not as comfortable with, it just requires everyone else to give that little bit extra to try and push the team forward and to try and take a bit of a load off of the goaltender. Good week for Mark Scheifele, 4 assists on the week, as well as 2 goals and an assist for Josh Morrissey, a goal and 2 assists for Kyle Connor as well. So 3 players at a point per game or better. But yeah, what about you? Are they, is it just a slight off week for the Jets? Is that Hellebuck injury going to cause them more problems?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily Comrie's. There's certainly a lot worse goaltenders out there, and I think Comrie would do a lot of good for some other teams in need of a goalkeeper and a goaltender. But I just think they've had a bit of a poor week. They've gone up against two strong teams. I'm perhaps bloating Minnesota up a bit, but I just think it's a poor week. They're going to be there and thereabouts. They've got the players. The players are performing for the most part, point production wise. They're just having had a few off games. They're on an away trip this week coming up against the Capitals, again against the Hurricanes, and then at the Predators. So I think they're going to get back on track. It won't surprise me if they win all 3 games this coming week.
Yeah, they are more than capable of doing that, aren't they? They, we know they have it in them, and you will just have to see how they get on.
Yeah. Now, time to talk about your team. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, a tough week for Chicago. They won against the Calgary Flames 5-2. And then they blew a 2-0 lead against the Kraken before one of just the most ridiculous games against the Buffalo Sabres, losing 9-3. Now, I want to touch on these 3 first before I touch on the Avalanche game. Flames, really solid win. They were, Arvid Soderblom had a good game. Connor Bedard was there putting up points. Nice to have Tyler Bertuzzi back in the lineup. This Chicago team's been really good this season. They're up to 13th in our power rankings as well. They're just not quite at a position where they can take their foot off the gas a little bit during the game. And I just think in that game against the Kraken, they saw themselves 2 goals up and they thought that, and just things started to get a little bit more slack. The passes weren't landing on the tape of the stick, and it just kind of fell apart a little bit, and it ultimately led to the Kraken coming back and winning that game 3-2. That Buffalo game, they've arrived late in Buffalo the previous night. It's the second day of a back-to-back. They've gone from home to away. You just need to write off those games. You just need to put a pin in it and move on. No one turned up particularly. And it was just an absolute horror show. That had the potential to derail that season. Now, they've still come out with a 1-0 loss to the Avalanche, so getting shut out from a great performance from Scott Wedgwood. But they fought the Avalanche to the last moment of the game. And I think that's really commendable. We know how good the Avalanche have been this year, and they hung in with them throughout the entire game. And when they ended up in a bit of a sticky situation with Spencer Knight kind of losing his bearings a little bit, Cale Makar's got 3/4 of the goal to aim at. He's not going to miss that. But they're in the midst of a bit of a home stretch at the moment. They've got the Wild, the Predators, and the Ducks coming up. Some opportunities there to get some wins back on the board and push themselves back up this division. But yeah, is there anything you want to add about them?
Yeah, I think that's a fair rundown. I mean, could you have had a horrendous performance against any other team in this league but the Buffalo Sabres? That would be my only request, that you didn't do that against them, because now it makes the Sabres look a bit more relevant. But on the face of it, I watched the first two periods against the Avalanche, and they put up a great fight. They were playing good hockey. They were competitive. They were winning battles, etc. I think they were out shooting the Avalanche as well quite considerably for the majority of that game. So again, I think they're they're a good, young, exciting team. You have had a bit of a poor week, but it hasn't sort of impacted your team for the most part. Bedard is sensational, and then obviously the 3 home games coming up. I think that game against the Wild that's going to be a good game.
That'll be a goodie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, not much really for me to say about the Blackhawks. I think it's still progress being made despite a bit of a drop in the standings. But
Yeah, arrows still pointing up.
yeah, and definitely miles better than the bottom two teams in this division. The 29th in our power rankings, 7th in this division, St. Louis Blues. I mean, they've had a good week on the face of it, 2 overtime losses and a win. So they've got points from every single game, 4 points this week, still on a minus 23. But they lost against the Maple Leafs, the Flyers, and beat the Islanders. So at the start of this year, you would have maybe looking at the lineup and thinking they could get some more points from this, but they haven't done. That's about it, really.
Yeah, they've been poor. They've been poor all season. Decent week for them to get that 3-game kind of point streak put together, and good to get a road win when you can. But I just think they're miles off it. I think them and the bottom place team just absolutely miles off.
Yeah. They consistently score two goals a game. I think this week, but no players at a point per game. I mean, the top scorer so far is obviously Kyrou and Thomas at 13 points in 21 and 18 games, respectively. No player on a plus. It's just poor hockey, really. And they're going up against the Rangers and the Devils on an away trip in the big city, and then play the Senators and Mammoth at home. Again, I mean, if they get any points from any games for me at this point, they're in one of the bottom 4 teams that aren't going to be doing much this year.
Agreed.
Now, again, they've played as many games as everybody else for the most part, but they only played 1 game this week, and it was against the Colorado Avalanche. So I'm not really sure what we expected from the Predators this week. But they lost 3-0, okay, at home. No players with a point. Never mind a point per game. Obviously, Saros still getting a 958 save percentage from this game. But that is in part due to the fact that 2 of their goals, the Colorado Avalanche, came as empty net goals at the end of the game. But still, nothing really on attack, nothing really much to say about this. What is an awful team, really.
Yeah, they're a poor team. I think they are destined for the bottom of this division. I think it's already a tough division, and I think that they are just perpetually struggling. So I think, there needs to be big conversations about what we do with the Nashville Predators moving forward. Do they tear it down? Do they go again? But yeah, I think certainly this season is very quickly heading into write-off territory.
And they should be doing better, Matt. They really should be doing with the players. Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg, they're not bad players.
No.
They should be doing better than they are doing.
Yeah.
So there's just no reason for it. Saros, great keeper. Just no idea.
Yeah, it's they're a rough watch. They're a rough watch.
Yeah. Right. And with that, we'll move into the next division then. We are going to revisit the Metro division and the first overall team there. Now, No surprises, I think, especially following our power rankings episode. But moving up a spot is the Carolina Hurricanes. What do you make of the Carolina Hurricanes this week?
It's been a bit of a weird one, hasn't it? I mean, they've come away. They've played 4 games. They've been on a road trip. They've played the Bruins, the Wild, the Jets, and the Sabres. They've come away with 5 points, with a 3-1 victory against Boston. They've lost in a shootout to your Minnesota Wild, beat the Jets 4-3, and then lost to the Sabres. So yeah, it's been a bit of a strange one. They've got the points on the board. They've been able to move up a spot. So they're well out on top in the Metro now. But yeah, with no player at kind of like a point per game, it's like they haven't had a definitive. They haven't had like a definitive standout player, but I think that kind of justifies the Carolina roster as a whole. As we've talked about on our power rankings, they don't necessarily have that A1 all-star franchise level player. They've got a lot of very, very good players. So I think they share out a lot of the scoring kind of amongst themselves. They've got that 3 goalie tandem of Anderson, Bussy, and Kochekov, who have all kind of played reasonably well, certainly throughout this season. But I think, to take 5 points on that 4-game portion of their road trip, I think they'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah, it's weird. And you look at the loss against the Sabres, and the Sabres are a bit up and down as a team anyway. But they beat the Jets, who are a very solid team. The Bruins are up there this year. They beat them 3-1. That game against the Wild is very, very close. So I do think, even though they haven't won every game, they're not steamrolling opposition like the Avalanche are. I do think they are a very, very solid team. I mean, I'm just looking at the goalkeeper save percentages. I know it's not the be and end all, but only Kochekov against the Bruins got over a 900. So it's kind of like they're just a steady, good team, I think.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. Yeah, completely agree. And I think they're certainly within that division. I think they're primed. I think to take that division.
Yeah, they got home games now for the Rangers, Jets, and the Flames. So, I mean, I always think that if you play the same team quickly in quick succession, you tend to split the series for the most part. So you might be looking at a loss against the Jets there, but the Rangers and the Flames are definitely 2 teams that this Hurricanes team can definitely beat and just establish their stronghold at the top of the Metro.
Agreed, completely.
Now we'll go on to then the second team in the Metro, and believe it or not, moving up 2 spots, it's the New York Islanders, who've a lot like the Wild have had a very good week, including 2 shutouts. So they beat the Stars away 3-2. Obviously, that was the Rantanen first boarding game. Then they smashed the Red Wings 5-0. Then a 2-1 loss against the Blues, a bit of an off night, and then probably what was sort of the worst game in hockey probably going to be this year, where they beat the Kraken 1-0 on penalties. Yeah. What do you think about the Islanders? Are they a bit fraudulent, or do you think they're actually primed to make a push?
I don't know if I'd describe them as fraudulent. I think they've had a good week, as all teams will. Every now and then a team does go on a little bit of a win streak. It's moved them obviously up into second place. I don't think it's somewhere that they'll stay long term. But you take your good weeks when you can get them. Good to get a couple of shutouts. I mean, yeah, that Kraken game was awful. It was a really, really sort of drab game of hockey. But those road victories against the Stars and the Red Wings, particularly that Detroit game with the 5-0 win, really impressive, and they're doing really well this week. I don't see them staying there, like I said, but they do have some pieces there. Obviously, Bo Horvat's right up there in the goal standings. Obviously, Matthew Schaefer's being putting himself well in that Calder conversation, and both of their goalies are above a 900 save percentage and under 3 goals against. So yeah, they're doing pretty good this week, but I don't know if it's sustainable.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, we were looking at Sorokin in particular as having a pretty weak start, but he has been absolutely great in the past few weeks in general. So now his stats are actually come down to looking great. That's how good he's been. He's sort of recovered from the poor statistical start. I mean, they got games against the Bruins, Flyers, and Capitals, so they've a couple of interdivisional matches there. And I mean, in this division, I think with injuries and other things going on, I think there is a playoff spot for the taking in this division. And a team like the Islanders could, if they sustain sort of the decent level that they get achieving, I think could see themselves there, which isn't what we kind of expected at the start of the season. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. And just sort of one more final note on that. And again, I'm not trying to precurse anyone's injury. And I know we'll be discussing it with with the next team on the list. But we say it week to week, and it's another week where Matt Barzal's stayed nice and healthy. He's having a pretty decent season, and obviously he's a big player for them. So yeah, I think it's good for them, good for the Islanders. Hopefully they can keep it going, because I completely agree. I think that there is potentially a playoff spot there for the taking for a bit of an outsider team, and maybe it'll be the Islanders. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we alluded to it as well, but injuries do happen. And for the New Jersey Devils, they seem to always happen to the best players. Obviously, Jack Hughes has gone out, and they've gone into this week and lost every single game. So, not a good week for the New Jersey Devils. They dropped down 2 spots. It's only 3 points behind Carolina, but every match sort of counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is kind of what we could have seen happening. We did wonder how the Hughes injury was going to impact the team. It turns out, obviously, it's impacted them quite heavily. Granted, okay, they've played 3. They've played 3 road games this week. Which obviously isn't easy. But getting shut out against the Panthers in that 1-0 loss, okay, that close game, but 6-3 loss to the Flyers and a 5-1 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning. For a team of New Jersey's caliber, just not results you would have expected, really. And yeah, I think they really are missing Hughes, and are going to miss him, extensively. We did say last week it did provide someone like Nico Hischier with an opportunity to step up and kind of fill that void. He did have 4 points in those 3 games. He had 3 goals and an assist. So I think he is absolutely capable. Obviously, former first overall pick, a really talented player, fantastic two-way centre. But yeah, I think they're missing their star man, and just hope that they don't end up going into like a free fall in his absence.
Yeah. It's a big week coming up for them. They're at home against the Red Wings, the Blues, away at Sabres, and at home against the Flyers. So normally you'd expect New Jersey to go out and win every one of those games. Obviously, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the scorers for the week, then you got 1 goal against the Lightning and then 3 against the Flyers, but he's just scored 3 goals, so he's pretty much scored every single one of the goals. So they need some help from further down the lineup as well, not just their top line.
Yeah, completely.
Okay, so going down into 4th spot then in this division. It's a bit of a yo-yo team, I feel. The Philadelphia Flyers. They only played 2 games this week and won them both, so good going for them. Another time winning against the Blues, followed by a 6-3 victory. So give me 2 seconds. Yeah, the victory against the Devils. So yeah, what do you think about the Flyers week?
Yeah, I mean, the Metro, I feel like all season it's probably been the division where there's been the most fluctuation in terms of teams moving up and down. So it is kind of quite a tight division, but just doesn't necessarily have the quality, I think, of maybe of the other divisions. But Philadelphia move up 2 spots. Another good week, I think, especially for Vladar in goal. He's on a 9-12 save percentage on the season, 242 goals against average as well. He's got 8 wins from 13 games this year. So I think he has played really, really well, and I think again a good goaltender can put you in a position to maybe win games that you wouldn't kind of expect to win, or wouldn't maybe have any business winning. but just a solid goaltender puts so much confidence in the team. Tyler Forster's got 3 goals in those 2 games as well. You got 3 assists from both Couturier and Konechny as well. Zegras getting a goal and an assist. Tippett getting 2 assists. So, they've been sharing the scoring up and down the lineup, which is good for Philly. And I do kind of like the direction this Philly team's going. I think they've got a nice blend of kind of youth and veterans. I don't think they're quite there yet. And I think they could be another team we see sort of fluctuating up and down. I know they were one of 2 teams to stay in exactly the same position power rankings wise. They stayed sort of 25th. So I do sort of anticipate that they'll drop down a little bit. Obviously, they've got quite a tricky road game stint coming up in the next 4. But they've been, well, 2 games, 2 wins. You can't really complain, can you?
Yeah. I think, there's a lot of teams in this division that are going to be up and down, as opposed to the Islanders, which seems to be putting together better performances and got more of the star players, etc. And sort of Schaefer. I think the Flyers are going to be thereabouts. They're not going to be awful, but I think they're going to maintain where they sort of are, really, I think. But yeah, definitely a change in style from Tortorella last year. And a bit more stable this year, seems.
Yeah,
No
well,
flying
definitely.
obstacles.
Yeah, I think that any team coached by Torts is anything but stable. Generally speaking, it's certainly an experience, I think. But I think they're benefiting a bit more from a bit of just stability, I think.
We haven't really seen much of Matvei Mishkov, though. I will say that he's not really living up to the hype at this moment in time. Plenty of time yet, but yeah.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I've already said, I think we can really take the jump a bit early on some of these prospects, and Michkov had a good year last year. That second season kind of slump, so to speak, is a bit more kind of well documented. I think obviously in your first year, a lot of guys don't really know what you're about, and I think it opens up a few opportunities to catch people by surprise. Second year, so kind of some people are, they're a bit more savvy to the way that you play, and then I think that that kind of summer period between kind of your second and your third year, I think is your opportunity to really kind of get your training in and try and establish kind of what kind of player you're going to be. Obviously, he's going to have a bit of an extended break with obviously without Russia being eligible for the Olympics. So maybe it gives a chance to maybe reset and work on a few things and come back after that Olympic break and try and make a bit of a push on. But yeah, slightly disappointing from him, but I'm not pulling the plug on Michkov anytime soon.
No. Duke. Well, moving to 5th place then in this division is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Maybe falling a bit down to earth now. They got a record of 10-6-5, 25 points in the division, down 2 spots. They played 2 games this week, lost against the Wild 5-0, which was a grisly loss, and then they lost in overtime to the Kraken. Crosby coming in with a goal and an assist, but mainly it's just save percentages, I think. Goaltending, I just don't think, no. They just haven't had a good week.
Yeah, it was a rough performance from Seelovs, I think, especially in that Wild game. Obviously, he got pulled and Murashov came in. Murashov then got the start against the Kraken. I've still been really impressed with Murashov. I think he's been really, really impressive. Obviously, I know he's only played 4 games so far, but he's got a goals against average under 2. He's at 1.9 as well as a 913 save percentage. So I think it is good for them to have that option. But yeah, I think it's just been a bit of a tricky week for Pittsburgh. They're not necessarily, in a position where I think they're just going to be a bit up and down. I think like a lot of the teams in this league, and in this division especially, they're just going to be very up and down over the course of the season. It has the potential to fall off a little bit, but with Sidney Crosby there, you never know, do you?
Yeah. And they've had a few injuries. Brageau's still out. I forgot who else is, but they are struggling a bit in terms of injuries. They've flown back from Stockholm as well, which may indicate why they've had a bit of a slower week. It was a back-to-back games as well. So it's one of the one of those weeks, I think. And they go up against the Sabres at home, Blue Jackets away, and then at home against the Maple Leafs, which might be a bit of a tasty game, that one.
Yeah.
So they've got room to improve, I think, the Penguins after this week, but I still think they're overachieving on their expectations from what we expected from them this year.
Yeah, I would say so. They're definitely, well, significantly overachieving, I think, from what everyone expected. And what I suppose when we get to the kind of halfway point, if it kind of falls apart, then they might sort of go full tank mode. But I think right now they're kind of hanging in there, so I think they're just going to try and roll with it as much as they can.
Yeah. Doing Sidney Crosby and Jenny Malkin some good. I think Malkin had a quote, I'm not sure whether it's this week or the week before, where he says he doesn't really want to go anywhere else. He wants to, essentially, if he's going to be playing hockey, it'll be for the Penguins, which is kind of nice of him.
Yeah, good for him, good for the fans as well. Obviously, he's been, he's an absolute icon in Pittsburgh. He'll be getting his jersey retired there. He's an absolute legend for that franchise. And if he wants to stay there and play out the rest of his career, I think he's absolutely earned that. But you never know if it's maybe not in his best interest. They might look to move him, but I think that Pittsburgh will absolutely take his thoughts and feelings into that consideration. I don't think they're just going to chuck him for the sake of chucking him.
Right, and with that then, we'll move off the Penguins and into the 6th spot in the Metro Division. Up one spot this week is the Columbus Blue Jackets, who've been very, very busy. 4 games, 3 of them went to overtime, and one of them went to a shootout. So yeah, what do you think of the Blue Jackets week?
Yeah, they've had a very busy week in terms of fatigue, and I'm sure those guys will be absolutely knackered. But yeah, a shootout victory against the Habs, obviously losing to the Jets, but then they've beat the Maple Leafs in OT and then lost to the Red Wings in OT. So been a bit of an up and down week for them, but 5 points from the 8 available. It's a nice little decent week. I'm always kind of pulling for the Blue Jackets, I think, to try and do as well as they can. I do like that franchise. Been a great week for Adam Fantilli as well, 4 goals and an assist there. Zach Werenski as well, getting 3 goals and 5 assists. So a terrific week from him. I absolutely love Zach Werenski. I think he's such a good player. And again, we've seen
Great for my fantasy league.
Oh, I bet he is. Yeah, I bet he is. It's been again another kind of week of some solid goaltending, I think, as well from Jet Greaves and Elvis Merzlikins as well. That they've got a goalie tandem both with a 900 save percentage or better. But Greaves certainly seems to have got the starting position there for now. But yeah, I do think this Columbus team, if they can just be a bit more consistent, and they can put together a bit of a run. We talk about there being potentially a playoff position for an outsider team. I think it could potentially be theirs if they really, really want it.
It's what makes this division so interesting for me is that you got the sort of the top 2 teams. I think Carolina and New Jersey are pretty much shoo-ins, I think, unless New Jersey go off the rails. But then that 3rd spot and any potential wildcard spots, you got Columbus, you got the Islanders, you got Pittsburgh, you maybe got the Flyers, we'll see. But even the other 2 teams we haven't talked about yet, the Capitals and the Rangers, you can't see them just completely tanking either. So I think any one of these teams could really make a step up. It's hard right now to make that guess as to who's going to make that leap, but somebody will. That's why, even though it may not be the best hockey, especially when you're looking at the Central Division and the teams there, they'll not be the greatest hockey teams, but it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be quite an entertaining division. I think certainly as we reach sort of the crunch time of the season.
Yeah. The Blue Jackets, they go up against the Capitals before games against the Maple Leafs and the Penguins. So two close games there in the division, and a Maple Leafs team who may or may not be up there this year. So again, up for the taking. No doubts they'll probably get the 3 points in 3 games, like we keep wittering on about. Is what we're looking at there.
Yeah, for sure.
But right, the 7th team then in this division this week is the Washington Capitals. Yep, up one spot off the bottom, 24 points, 11-9-2 record. Again, one of those teams with like a sort of a 500 win record this year. But they had 4 games this week, won 3 and then lost 1. So they beat the Kings 2-1, beat the Oilers 7-4, beat the Habs 8-4, and lost against the Lightning 5-3. So, in quite contrast to what we've been saying recently, where they seem to be a bit the solid defensively, a bit weaker in attack. It seems to be all guns blazing this past week.
Yeah, it's been raining goals, hasn't it, in for Washington this week? Obviously, Alex Ovechkin with 5 goals and an assist on the week. Jacob Chikrin with 2 goals and 4 assists as well. So yeah, a good week for Washington. Some really big wins there, especially that road victory against Montreal as well as is a great result for them, and obviously giving the Oilers a bit of a kick in as well. I wouldn't read too much into that 5-3 loss against the Lightning. Obviously, it was it was kind of quite a poor goaltending performance, but you do have those every now and then. But yeah, no, they've had quite a good week. Obviously, Ovechkin's now up to 20 points in 22 games. He's kind of been able to find a bit of form. In a rarity where you're seeing him match his goals and assists equally. He's usually way out ahead with his goals compared to his compared to his assists. But I suppose that's why he's the leading goal scorer of all time. But yeah, it's been a good week for them. I still don't think that they're going to be up to much in the long term, but a good week for them nonetheless.
Yeah. Again, lots of sort of close games coming up. The Blue Jackets, Jets, Maple Leafs, and Islanders. So again, it's all to play for. They're in 7th place, but they're on a +9, which goes to show that they are a solid team. They're just not eking out the results. So now Ovechkin is finally scoring goals again. I mean, they've got all the makings of having a solid team, and I think this team would probably be the safe bet for the 3rd spot in this division. I still think. Obviously, it's very close and tight knit. So even though they've been hovering down the bottom end, I think even a couple of weeks of good results, and they can be up there. So we'll see.
They've got the experience, haven't they? They've got the experience.
Yeah, they do, and they're just solid. I think. Yeah. So that leads us then into the last team in this division. I'm actually getting quite sick of this team. They're just all over the place. They're frustrating me quite a bit. It's the New York Rangers. They're down 3 spots, 22 points in a division at the minute, but they played 3 games this week and lost all 3. Albeit they were all away from home and against some pretty tough opposition in the Golden Knights, Avalanche, and Mammoth. They're just not a good team, and even when they're doing well, they're not inspiring me to want them to do well this year.
Yeah, they've just been so strange, haven't they? The Rangers, they've just been so poor, for seemingly kind of about 18 months now, and I'm not really sure as to why they've been as poor as they have. I mean, even they made a coaching change this year. They're just not finding it. I don't know what the problem is, kind of up and down the lineup. I'm just really not sure. I was quite optimistic when JT Miller came in, and they made him captain, and they decided that was the direction they were going to go. And I really like JT Miller. I think he's a fantastic leader, but even he's struggling to drag these guys up at the moment. And yeah, I think they could end up being a team that think that they maybe need to reset a little bit and kind of sell some guys off, make a push for the for the draft lottery. But yeah, they've just been really poor and a really frustrating watch all season, really. And that's not the way they would have wanted their centennial year to go, I don't think.
No. I mean, I'm going to make a comparison to the NFL. I'm not really sure on basketball or baseball. I don't follow them in great detail, but there seems to be a thing with like the Tiffany franchise, New York teams, the Giants, Jets, and then obviously the Rangers, which they got all this expectation. They got a huge following across the board, and everyone knows who they are, can recognise their team anywhere, but they just never seem to perform. And with the Jets and Giants in the NFL, them two teams have got like the worst record in the past sort of 20 years combined, kind of thing. They've just been year by year horrible teams. And I feel like the Rangers are almost slipping into that sort of New York purgatory in that respect as well. And I mean, you got the Islanders and the Devils, which are kind of in that same area, but they don't play at MSG. They're not like the big bright franchises, if that makes sense. It's just rather frustrating. Like if you're going to be the face of the league in terms of teams, and at least be able to form with your star players that you've got, because they've got a great lineup. They're not struggling for star names and players. They're just not cutting it out.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I believe that Artemi Panarin's a free agent at the end of the season. I don't know if New York are going to get a new contract over the line for him or not. I don't know if it's somewhere that he envisions himself staying, or maybe enough's enough for him and he wants to go and compete somewhere else. But yeah, I think you look at someone like Artemi Panarin and someone who could command that kind of 11 to 12 or 10 to 12 million dollars, and I don't know if his output this season, all right, he's got 20 points in 23 games, but the direction of the Rangers, whatever way they decide to go, they might just decide that they don't want to put that kind of money into someone like Panarin. So yeah, they're
He's not
frustrating.
taking control of games, is he?
No, he's not. He's kind of he's great when the going's good, but doesn't necessarily grab a game by the scruff of its neck. There's actually I think there's quite a lot of parallels. You might agree with me, you might not. I think there is quite a few parallels to someone like Kirill Kaprizov, not just with the Russian aspect, but I just think they're both phenomenally gifted players, and their end of career highlight reels are going to be an absolute thing of beauty. But when it's time to step up and take a game by the scruff of the neck and drag your team to a victory, he just doesn't necessarily seem to be that guy. Yeah, I don't know about you.
I mean, I disagree with the Kaprizov. I disagree with Kaprizov. I mean, Kaprizov's issues, injuries, and other bits and pieces. That I think he's a better player than Panarin, but that may be my
Well,
my
yeah, I
bias
think
coming through
he's.
there.
I do think he's a better player, yeah, than Panarin is, but I just I don't see either of them kind of taking charge enough for me.
Yeah. Anything more on the Rangers, or shall we move on to
Nah,
the
we'll
next
we'll go to
division?
the next division, I think.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to head back out west again. We'll cover the Pacific Division, um, purely because I want to talk about the first overall team in that division again, which is the Anaheim Ducks. The more I watch these team play, the more I think they're going to have it in them to go all the way in terms of getting to the playoffs. They're not going to drop off. That they are going to be there come the end of the year. They played 4 games this week, won 3 of them, but 2 in overtime. So they beat the Mammoth 3-2 in overtime before beating the Bruins 4-3, lost against the Senators 3-2, and then beat the Golden Knights in overtime 4-3. So I just think I think they're a very good, solid team.
Yeah, they had a really good bounce back week, didn't they? Obviously, them and Montreal, who we'll get to, had a rough week last week, and we talked about, young teams will have these weeks, and it's about how they kind of bounce back from it, and they've bounced back well. Yeah, Troy Terry's got 2 goals and 3 assists in those games. Cutter Gautier's got a goal and 4 assists. Beckett Seneca getting a goal and 3 assists. Which is really good seeing. And you're looking at, someone like Beckett Seneca, with 16 points in 22 games, and I think that he is working himself into that Calder Trophy conversation. I don't know whether he's going to win it or not, but he's been terrific, and he's so physical and a really, really exciting player to watch. And you pair him up with the likes of Gautier and Leo Carlson as well, and I think that the the bringing in of Chris Kreider, and you've got someone like Troy Terry as well, who's kind of been around a few years, kind of more than those guys. I just think they're such a good team to watch. I really enjoy them, and I'm glad they're able to have the bounce back week that they did.
Yeah. They're getting great goaltending as well from Dostal. He's doing well. Even Mrazek's keeping up and doing all right for the most part in the odd game here and there. I mean, it's just grittiness winning in overtime as well, getting results across the line when you're facing some challenges. They've got a game against the Canucks and the Kings at home, and then before travelling to Chicago to play your Blackhawks. Now, that's going to be sort of a young team off, I think. There, that's going to be a good game to watch. That.
Yeah, really looking forward to that game. I think that'll be really good, and Leo Carlson and Bedard going head to head, and I think that'll be a terrific game. Could see a lot of goals happening in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so going from an exciting team on 29 points to the driest wet team, the Seattle Kraken, up one spot again into second with 28 points. Again, they've had a 4-game week this week, beating the Blackhawks 3-2, beating the Penguins in overtime, but losing against the Red Wings, and again that proper dismal game against the Islanders where I think there was 2 penalties the whole game, not a single goal, nothing happened. But a shutout for Decord though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested actually. Again, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but when a team loses in a shootout, and obviously the game finishes as a 1-0 result, does that goaltender, do they still get credited with a shutout on the game?
They do, yeah. Because
okay.
at the end of overtime, yeah.
Oh, interesting. No, I wasn't sure. No, it's they are they're a good team, but just so boring. They're just so I think we kind of need to accept now that Seattle are they are a decent team, but they are just like kind of turgid to watch, and they're getting results. They're getting results done, and it was a great comeback victory over the Blackhawks. Frustratingly for me, but they're finding ways to win games and certainly hang in those games. I think it's pretty rare to see the Kraken get absolutely kind of trounced by someone, but they equally don't tend to kind of absolutely smash teams all over the place either. So they're always kind of in close games, and I think the way that they play kind of frustrates teams, and it leads them to having quite sort of dry affairs.
Yeah. I mean, they're going up against 2 more explosive teams in the Stars and the Oilers this week, so we might see a bit more fireworks, even if it's just from the other team. But we'll see. No doubt they'll find a way to make it a really drab and dismal affair. But
are we allowed to call the Oilers explosive?
I think so. I mean, they're either shockingly putting the goals, like they're conceding millions of goals, or they're scoring lots of goals. They may be rubbish, but I think they're no boring game to watch. I don't think.
Well, yeah, that's true. Their games are entertaining, aren't they? One way or the other, from a neutral perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's just funny watching McDavid and Draisaitl sit next to each other on the bench when their teammates perform like. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Edmonton Oilers just yet. I'm sure we'll get onto them, but yeah, I do think both of those games should be on paper entertaining with those 2 teams, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So that leads us into a team that's still sort of struggling to assert themselves really in this division, although they did come out with 5 points in 3 games. The Vegas Golden Knights sat on 27 points. They beat the Rangers 3-2, the Mammoth 4-1, before losing to the Ducks 4-3 in overtime. So, yeah, I think we keep having the same sort of conversation for the Vegas Golden Knights. Is when are they actually going to be the team that they should be with all the names on paper?
Yeah. I think you summed it up perfectly. It's like they're just a team they're not taking charge of this division, and I think it is absolutely their division to take charge of. You look at the caliber of the players they've got, the depth up and down the lineup. But again, we come back to the Vegas Golden Knights every time with just their goaltending is just not ideal. Fortunately they do have the firepower to be able to kind of work their way around it. But and a good bounce back week for Jack Eichel getting 5 points in those 3 games. Shea Theodore also getting 5 points as well on the week. But I think they're a team that night after night they're gonna have to go out there and put up 3+ goals a night, because I just don't think the goaltending behind them is going to carry them there.
They're missing Pietrangelo as well, I think. But a player like him, but I don't think it's been talked about that much. Is the loss of that blue line. But
yeah, I think he was a big loss, wasn't he? Obviously, tons of experience and and a really physically assertive player, and a massive loss to their back end. I don't think we've kind of that's been discussed enough this year, and certainly they'll be they'll be gutted to not have him. But I don't really know kind of what the future holds for Vegas this season. Obviously, they're on the road again to Utah before returning back to Vegas to play the Senators, the Habs, and the Sharks. So, there are some points on offer there, and definitely some wins they can have if they just need to, grab this kind of division by the throat and go, this is ours. We're going to go win it, and just sort of push on from there, I think.
Right, next up, again, we've gone from 29 points, 28 points, 27 points, and in 4th place on 26 points is the LA Kings, who have dropped down from top spot in this division. Now, I mean, they've lost every single game this week, but they've lost in a penalty shootout to the Sharks and in overtime to the Bruins, and lost to the Capitals in regulation. So, a bit of a poor week for the Kings. I think they're another team that are a bit up and down.
Yeah, they're another team just struggling to find consistency, aren't they? They'll have a good week, then they'll have a poor week, and they'll find themselves on top of the division. Then they'll find themselves outside of a playoff spot, kind of week to week. So again, they're kind of one of a few teams that are just really struggling to establish any kind of sort of consistency. 3 points in 3 games for Anze Kopitar, which is always nice to see, and I just want him to have as good a season as he can before he retires. I think that would just be really nice to see. Obviously, they've got the Senators coming up at home, and they go away to Anaheim to play the Ducks before then returning back home to play the Canucks the day after. I think they need to come out of those 3 games, I think, with at least 4 points. I think if they want to kind of keep pushing forward and try and sort of push themselves into the playoff picture.
Yeah. They need to keep being consistent because there's a couple of teams behind them who aren't having the best of seasons, but could easily turn it around and go on a run, and LA Kings could find themselves in trouble. But it's a very close division, this one, I feel. I think the whole league this year has been sort of a lot bunch more together. There's less teams at the bottom and teams at the top this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So the 5th team now on 25 points, so we continued that trend. Down up 2 spots this week is the San Jose Sharks. Yes, they've had another fairly good week of the Sharks. They played 4 games. They've beat the Mammoth in overtime 3-2. They beat the Kings 4-3 in a shootout. Beat the Bruins 3-1, but then lost 3-2 to the Senators. So Senators must have been having a good week, I think.
Yeah.
But no, I think the key idea for the Sharks here is that Celebrini is still going off and performing like the superstar that he is. And on top of that, Askarov is like having a standout year as well. He's really coming to fruition as a top
goalkeeper.
So I think a very good week for the Sharks.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you see the record that Celebrini set this week?
I think I did actually. Is it like you say it so I don't mess it up?
So he has become the 4th teenager in NHL history to reach 30 points on a season in 20 games or fewer. I'm going to throw it out there too if you want to take a guess at the other three names, unless you've seen it already, or if you just want me to rattle them off.
Oh, don't make me guess and make me look daft. It's not
So,
Bedard, though, is it?
No, it's not. So, Macklin Celebrini has become, the fourth teenager in NHL history to reach 30 points in 20 games or fewer, joining the following players: Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Sidney Crosby. That is pretty good company to find yourself in. He's terrific, and I'm here to win. I'm here to enjoy him. He's he's a fantastic player, and I know I've said that I think that Bedard's the better player. We've got 15 years to hash that argument out, but I'm veering away from comparing the two. I've just said let's just enjoy them both. Especially when they're as good a mates as they are as well. They're really close friends, both Celebrini and Bedard. So, I don't even think they're up for any sort of comparison. They're just both happy to see each other playing so well, which then I think in the kind of public domain kind of makes everyone go, oh, well, it's kind of hard to force a rivalry when they both just really like each other. But yeah, it's
they
been
face
a good
each other in the playoffs, and
things
get nasty.
There is that, but I think each of those respective players will assign someone else on their roster to take the other one's head off. I don't think they're going to want to. I don't think they're going to want to do it to each other. But it's been a good week for them, hasn't it? They're taking a good week one at a time. They could absolutely throw a bit of a stinker up there and the next week and lose a few, but I think just San Jose will be really happy just to see some good performances, another hat trick for Celebrini and 4 assists for Will Smith on the week as well. But yeah, Celebrini and Smith both in my fantasy team and keeping me right in the mix.
Yeah. They got tough games coming up, away at the Avalanche, at home against the Canucks, but then away at Vegas as well. I mean, if we're going to talk about them being a potential playoff team, and I don't think in all seriousness they're going to be there quite this year, they need to beat Vegas, I think. But
yeah, I don't think we need to be having Sharks playoff discussions just yet, but we'll see.
You never know. How about the Edmonton Oilers playoff conversations? They've also got 25 points. They're up 1 spot to 6th. Ugh. What a weird, awful week for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, that 5-1 loss to the Sabres, 7-4 loss to the Capitals, losing in overtime to the Lightning. That game against the Panthers was a great game. It was always going to be, obviously. I believe the first time they faced each other this season, obviously since the Panthers lifted the cup. That was a great game. But God, Edmonton are just such a rough watch. Their goaltending's terrible. Just like, oh cool, like Evan Bouchard got 4 assists in 4 games. Yeah, like terrific stuff. Just can't defend for shit though. Like he's just so bad. But yeah, I don't know. We keep saying week after week, the Oilers need to, we're only at the quarter point of the season, but if they really, really want to be that playoff team and go all the way, they're going to have to figure it out sooner or later. So yeah, they've just been they've been a really rough watch.
They're a team that's scrambling, that's panicking almost already. Like they know they're behind, they're trying to play catch up, and they're like, right, well, this week's we're going to get it sorted, and then it doesn't happen. And it's just how many more weeks you're going to give it before they actually just realise they kind of are who they are. I mean, they're not far behind. They're not cut adrift. For example, they could have a really great week. I mean, next week they're playing 2 games against the Stars and the Kraken, but like you could have a 4-game week, and some of the other teams in division can only have play 2 or 3, and next thing you know, you see them in 2nd or 3rd place potentially. But I think what's the matter? Well, what the fact is that they just seem to be scrambling. They're all over the place. They don't seem to be putting in coherent performances.
Yeah, I think I watched kind of a good couple of periods. I caught the second and the third of the game against the Capitals. What I noticed with the Oilers, it's like you can almost see them on the ice, like you can see them actively thinking. And I think when you're actively thinking about every little decision you're making about, what pass you're going to make, or, when the time is to take a shot, or when the time is to, to lay a stick out for a poke check or something like that, I just think you're half a step behind the opposition already, because it just makes everything that fraction slower. And in a league like this that's played at such speed, you just can't afford to do that. But yeah, like you said, they're scrambling a bit. I think they're starting to panic a touch. They're out there thinking. They've got no confidence in the goaltending behind them. Don't think they have much confidence in the defense playing either. But they're another team similar to Vegas who when they need to go out and win games, they need to go out there and be putting 4, 5, 6 goals out there a night, which they are capable of doing. But yeah, just they're going to concede a lot of goals, and when you can then stifle them on the other end and stop them scoring, they become quite an easy team to play against.
Yeah, they do. They are. Yeah. Do it for McDavid. Come on, Edmonton.
It's almost kind of funny. It's almost kind of funnier though if they don't. I mean, I want
Yeah,
I want Connor
storyline.
McDavid. I want him to win a cup more than anything, because I think that Connor McDavid is going to go down potentially as like a potential Mount Rushmore player when all's said and done. He's such a game changing player. And if he doesn't end up winning a cup in Edmonton, then if he goes somewhere else and then ends up, for example, winning one first time of asking, like Christ, that would just be that would be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton have had their fair share of great players and cup tournaments, so it's not like another team who've never won a cup and they finally got their franchise player and they've been so close several times and not quite got it. But they've had their chances of success. And being a bit of a Calgary fan, I'm not really all that into Edmonton that much, but it's just it would be funny if he did go somewhere else and gets it done.
I just love I just loved your statement there of like Edmonton have had their fair share of good players in the past. Like yeah, like I think Wayne Gretzky, and I think Mark Messier was quite a good player, and yeah Yari Curry was quite a good
Yeah,
player, and yeah I would say that Wayne Gretzky guy he wasn't too bad, was he?
he was all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was fine. Yeah,
not too bad.
exactly. I think they've had it too lucky. It's like what I'm trying to say is they can't go crying about how, oh, we just can't do it. We can't. Well, you've done it. You've had it in the past.
Oh
Let
yeah.
somebody else go. Like, go to the Columbus Blue Jackets and watch them win a cup, and that'd be so weird thinking about it. But anyway, um, we'll move on. I think that
Yeah.
might be a good topic of conversation for another time. But anyway, uh, down the spots, Vancouver Canucks. I don't know what much we can really say about this team. They suck. They've lost every game this week and fairly convincingly every time. Losing to the Panthers 8-5, the Stars 4-2, and then the Flames as well 5-2. So I think it's going to be a fire sale from the Canucks this year, I think.
Yeah, we're getting, I think week by week, we're getting closer to Quinn Hughes to New Jersey. Um, yeah, they've just been absolute cheeks this week. And they've been cheeks all season. It's just such a miserable place at the moment. And I've been to Vancouver. It's such a gorgeous city. Absolutely love it. It's it's one of the most amazing cities I've ever been to. And they love their hockey, but their team is just garbage.
Yeah. And when you got Seattle doing well in this division, that rivalry is just gonna these results are just gonna hurt even more. I mean, Demko's been out injured for a while, but like They haven't even had a goalkeeper this week go above an 8.33 save percentage. They've got players coming with the points. Pettersson's coming with 3 goals. Obviously, Quinn Hughes with a goal and 3 assists and stuff like that. So they are scoring in some respects, but they're just, in order for them to score a goal, it seems like they have to concede 2 just to give them that time to get up and score, essentially.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But they've just been. Yeah, I mean, in that Florida game, I mean, Florida scored 5 goals on 15 shots, which just that can't happen. That cannot happen. Yeah, it's just been a bit of a write off, but maybe McKenna ends up in Vancouver, eh?
Well, we'll see, because there are a few teams who are doing worse than that. Now, the Calgary Flames, who are still rooted to the bottom of this division, they seem to be playing themselves out of Gavin McKenna at this point, coming from this week, but not even looking good doing it. So I'm not sure exactly what their strategy is, but they lost against your Blackhawks 5-2 before going on a 3-game winning streak, beating the Sabres 6-2, the Stars on a shootout, and then the Canucks 5-2. So they got Rasmus Andersson with 2 goals and 7 assists in 4 games. I mean, what a week for him. Kadri also with 7 assists. So yeah, I'm getting nervous as a Flames fan because you're still not going to be in the playoffs. But if you're playing well enough, you could end up in purgatory land.
Yeah, well, potentially. Or alternatively, I just think you look at Anderson and Kadri and go, yeah, we can restock the cupboards, shifting those 2 guys. I've been talking about it all season. I think Nazem Kadri goes at the trade deadline. He's, I think he's a prime candidate, and someone who, if he keeps performing this way, even on a failing team, there would be a team willing to, to give up a first round pick, I think, to bring Nazem Kadri in, and the same with Anderson as well. So, yeah, they've had a good week and putting some of their guys in the shop window, I think. But yeah, they continue their road trip. They've got the Lightning, the Panthers, and the Hurricanes coming up, so I think they could come crashing back down to reality soon. Yeah, but I'm not. They're our 32nd ranked team in our power rankings. They've been garbage all season. I don't think a 3-game winning streak's going to change that.
No, they'll go straight back to losing again, I think. Not that I want them to, but anyway. Shall we move on to the last division then of this episode, the Atlantic?
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll go off then with the first place team in the Atlantic division, which is actually the Detroit Red Wings, back on top again. Played 3 games this week, beat the Kraken 4-2, lost to the Islanders 5-0 in that grisly game, and then beat the Blue Jackets in overtime 4-3. So they've actually gone back up to the top of the division. What do you make of their week?
Yeah, good week for Detroit. And again, I think they are interestingly enough lead the division with a -4 kind of plus minus on their goals this year. Although 5-0 losses to teams like the New York Islanders probably isn't gonna help that. But yeah, it's been a good week for them, and I think they are having a good year, aren't they? I think probably better than they would have expected. They're getting some great performances from Dylan Larkin, and like it's so crazy when you watch the Red Wings play, and there's certain players. Obviously, you have fast players, but there's certain people. Connor McDavid's one of them. Quinn Hughes is another, and Dylan Larkin's another one who. The speed that they skate at is so noticeable, and as when Larkin's able to kind of put the burners on, like his ability to move at that speed is just crazy. But yeah, he's been terrific. Alex DeBrincat as well, as he's got 24 points in 22 games on the season as well. Again, another nice little fantasy mention for my team there. But yeah, they're doing well, and I feel like I should have an internalized hatred for Detroit, being a Chicago fan. But I think when you see DeBrincat and Kane in that lineup, I think it's just hard to hate them at the moment.
Chicago's retirement home. as it were.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, you're right about Larkin. Larkin ain't parking, is he? He's going full speed ahead. Goalkeeper tandem Talbot and Gibson still doing well. I just think they're one of them weird teams that are top of the division on a plus minus on their day. They can go up against anyone, but they're prone to the odd horrendous game. I think the Red Wings, but we'll see what it's like when we get closer to crunch time and see if they can actually pull it out. But yeah, it's definitely. I don't know. Obviously, because they're both original six, aren't they? Blackhawks and Red Wings. So well, how can you the rivalry should be there? You should hate the Red Wings.
Yeah. I think the problem is they used to be in the same division, so you would get games against the Red Wings 4 times a year, and it really allowed for that local rivalry to to really heat up. But then since they moved them out of the division, that kind of rivalries fizzled away a little bit. I think certainly more of the old school Chicago fans, guys that kind of, in their 30s and 40s, I think probably have that more internalized hatred for the Red Wings than I do. But yeah, I mean, in my hockey fandom experience, that obviously they've never been in the same division, so it hasn't really, it just hasn't really been there for me.
Haven't really been relevant either, I guess. Either.
Right.
They haven't really been sort of up there either, have they? Really? So, and I mean that for Detroit. I mean Chicago has.
Oh right, I thought you were about to talk about Chicago. I was about to reach down the microphone and lift you up by your shirt collar and shake all the lunch money out your pockets.
Spoken like a true Blackhawks fan.
Hey now.
Hey now. Right, second team in this division, and I think my favourite for a team that's going to go on the run now and just establish the dominance and streak ahead. But it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're up 3 spots. They've won all 3 games this week. Beating the Devils 5-1 convincingly, beating the Oilers 2-1 in overtime, and then beating the Capitals as well 5-3. Plenty of scorers all chipping in with a point per game. They're the machine. They're the favourites for me in this division.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I know Elliot Friedman mentioned it on the 32 Thoughts podcast, and it was a really good kind of poignant comment. Is that Jake Gensel is having the best season in the league that no one's talking about. I don't feel like you really hear much ever really mentioned about like Jake Gensel and his performance, but he's been such a great player for them this year. And I know that obviously Kucherov's had 6 points in those 3 games this year, so that's kind of helped out his points total. But I think maybe prior to that, I don't think Kucherov's maybe had the season that you would usually have expected from him. But Gensel's kind of stepped up and taken a bit more, ownership and has been really, really dominant this year. But yeah, just doesn't seem to be getting as much love. But yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I think Tampa, I think they are kind of prime candidates. We said, didn't we? They've got the coaching, they've got the roster, they've got the experience, they've got the talent. It was just a case of it all clicking together and falling into place. And I think if they can get that kind of sorted in the run up to Christmas, I think they could go on an absolute tear.
Yeah. Braden Point isn't doing much for them this year, though, and I think. But a team that's got full of decent players, I think there'll always be 1 or 2 that sort of drop off. But yeah, Point has done not a lot this year, I don't think.
Yeah, and we've seen it with a few of those players, haven't we? Who got that? Well, maybe not someone like Nathan McKinnon, but obviously, like Team Canada announced preliminary guys who have made the team for Team Canada already. And one of those was Braden Point, who kind of hasn't had obviously the most. Like kind of a season you would have expected from him. Obviously, another one was Jordan Binnington, who I'm just not even going to speak about because it pisses me off. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of guys are playing this year with the intensity of, like, obviously the Olympics are on the horizon, and they really need to bring their A game. And I don't know. Maybe obviously I don't know Braden Point personally. It'd be cool if I did. But with him already getting that preliminary roster spot, maybe there's just 5% out of his game this year because he knows he's already there. So I don't know. But yeah, he is someone else who equally, he could go and get 8 points in 4 games and move himself right back up there.
Yeah. Agreed. I was sure it was worth mentioning.
Mm.
They got games against the Flyers, Flames, Red Wings, and Rangers. All games I think they could easily win this Tampa Bay team. So we'll see where they're at next week. Probably at the top of the division.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, we'll go into the third place team then, up one spot again. The Ottawa Senators, who continue to do well in Brady Tkachuk's absence. Almost butchered it then. But they had the away trip to the West Coast, playing the Ducks and the Sharks, and won both those games 3-2. So yeah, good week for the Senators.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm absolutely tempted as well to just get you a Brady Tkachuk, or just a general Tkachuk-like soundbite, just for you to push whenever you need to mention one of them, just to avoid the stress on you anytime you need to bring them up. But but yeah, I mean, again, we've had this conversation, haven't we? Of like, obviously, he was such a big loss, and if these guys and if the rest of the team could keep them in it until he returns, then they're laughing then, and they could potentially kind of work their way up and put themselves in quite a strong position. And they're managing to do that. Cousins, Batherson, Tim Stutzler, kind of all helping carry the team. Tim Stutzler, another one of my fantasy players, by the way. But yeah, they're all kind of chipping in one at a time and finding ways to keep Ottawa in the conversation.
Yeah. I think they're a real sort of wild card team who they're entertaining to watch. I think that they're performing above expectations, but they've also got the sort of the teams and the players. Like Shane Pinto, for example, is still putting in good work. He hasn't sort of dropped off. Obviously, yeah, I just think that they're a good team. I mean, they're in the middle of a 6-game, at least, away trip. So they go up against the Kings, Golden Knights, Blues, and Stars. I just think they're the berserker team, which are fun to watch. Will they get to the playoffs? I don't know, but they'll have fun either way. Getting there.
Yeah.
Right. We'll move then, if you want to, into the fourth place team, down 3 spots this week. It's the Boston Bruins, who've had a bit of a poor week this week, other than Morgan Geekie, who shipped in with 5 goals, but they lost 3 out of their 4 games and won the other one in overtime. The one they did win was the game against the Kings, 2-1. Pierre, what are your thoughts on the Bruins?
Yeah, they've had some tricky games, haven't they? Obviously, the Hurricanes is a tough game. The Ducks have been great this year, especially at home, and they only lost that 1-4-3. Obviously, lost the Hurricanes 3-1, lost to the Sharks 3-1. So it's one of those weeks, isn't it, where on another night potentially it could have just gone the other way. They haven't been absolutely blasted by anybody. They've just kind of come out on the wrong end of a few results. So yeah, Boston, they've been a little bit up and down. Still way better, I think, than we expected them to be. And I think in some ways, really good to see them kind of bouncing back. And yeah, Morgan Geekie's been, he's right up there in the Rocket Richard conversation, isn't he, at the moment? He's been great. But they've got the Islanders on the road before coming back home to face the Rangers and the Red Wings. So some original 6 matchups coming up there in Boston. I could completely see them this time next week kind of having flipped those results on their head and potentially coming out on the right side of it and moving their way back up this division. They're a similar team, similar to LA, who are just struggling to bring together some consistency at the moment.
I think in difference to the Kings, I think judging where they've been the past year and a bit, I think this has been a good positive season for them, making steps, playing good hockey, being still relevant. Last year was quite shocking, and Jeremy Swayman's putting in some good performances again. But I think there's obviously the bad news for the Bruins is that McAvoy needed surgery and he's going to be out, I dare say, quite a while after getting hit in the face with a puck. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that he
big miss there
looks
for them.
respectfully. I mean, Charlie McAvoy's a handsome chap, but my God, he's going to be uglier now. He looked terrible. I mean, he took a piece of vulcanized rubber to the face. So yeah, it's not going to make anyone prettier. But yeah, that was a really rough one. Even just watching the slow mo, and you can just see one of his teeth just explode out of his mouth in the process. It was a really rough one. Such an unfortunate kind of injury. And a massive loss for Boston as well. So yeah, I do like McAvoy. He's another one who, again, hopefully he'll be maybe back in time for the Olympics, or maybe they fit him with kind of like the bubble helmet or like a cage or something like that to give him a bit more protection. But yeah, right now he looks a bit of a mess.
Yeah, poor lad. That's why people should maybe wear some more guards. I don't know. There is that conversation in there because these things can happen. But not to say he should have be thinking about that now. He should concentrate on getting healthy and getting back to playing hockey, I think.
Yeah, completely.
Right. So, what do we make then of the 3-3 of the performance this week for the Montreal Canadiens, who have slipped down now to fifth place, dropping a further 2 spots? They've lost in a shootout to the Blue Jackets, lost against the Capitals 8-4, and then beat the Maple Leafs 5-2. So, what are your thoughts on the Canadiens?
It's been another slightly tricky week for this young side, hasn't it? We saw the Ducks bounce back from it really well. Obviously, Montreal just sort of slipped with it. I mean, a shootout loss is a coin toss, isn't it? That 8-4 loss to the Capitals at home would have been, was disappointing, and I've been quite disappointed this season with Sam Montembeault. Obviously, he had a really good year last year, and he's just not quite replicating it this year. Obviously, they've had the kind of emergence of Jakub Dobeš as well, who's obviously kind of been a bit of a godsend for them, really, in that regard. But yeah, Montembeault's had a really tricky season, and you look at their next week coming up, they're on the road to the Mammoth, the Golden Knights, and the Avalanche. So they could end up potentially in a little bit of a position of free fall, but they're still out there. They scored what 12 goals in 3 games. So, they are still finding the ability to put the puck in the net, which, as we always talk about, is one of the hardest things to do in hockey. So they're still finding a way to put up like 4 goals a game. Demidov got 4 assists on the week. Hudson and Dobson both chipped in with 2 goals and 2 assists each. Matheson got a goal and 4 assists. Cole Caulfield got 3 assists this week. So they're still remaining offensively productive, which is what gives me kind of a bit more hope with this team. If the goals were drying up completely, that'd be a real cause for concern. But I think they're still able to to put the puck in the net, so that always gives the team a chance.
It does. And I saw an interesting stat actually about how the Montreal, I can't remember the actual numbers, but when a team that they face, its average size is 6'2" and taller, they're horrendous. And when they're below that, they're pretty much winning every game. So it goes to show that this sort of young, fresh Canadians teams come up against the big, robust, strong teams, they're not really like cutting it out really. Which I think is a sign that maybe they need to get bigger and stronger themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really interesting podcast conversation for one of our kind of shorter episodes, is talking about the relevance of height and strength in the present day National Hockey League, because it's brought up regularly, isn't it? With certain guys, and again when it. Again, just to go off on a mild tangent, sorry, I remember one of the concerns that people had around someone like James Higgins at the draft this year was like, oh yeah, but he's only 5'10", and it's like, yeah, like that's not that big of a deal. I think there's a bit of a medieval thought process that every hockey player needs to be, 6'2", 200 plus pounds. But as we're seeing, you look at guys all over the league, Patrick Kane made a career off of, not being that tall. You look at someone like Alex DeBrincat, Cole Caulfield. These guys are short, but they are electrifying players. I think it's just trying to find a bit of balance, I think, as well. Obviously, having someone like Lane Hudson on on your defensive end is can be quite tricky, because he is literally like a pocket-sized defenseman. But then they've got the likes of Arber Xhekaj as well, who's an absolute kind of monster out there. So
I
yeah,
saw he
it's
had a fight this week as well. I forgot who he was up against. Sorry to jump in on that, but is that another name I can't pronounce? But he absolutely decks somebody. Again, a really useful insight there. But he's a great fighter.
oh yeah, he is. I know he had a really big rumble with about a week ago with Tanner Jeannot. He had a big one there, but I really like Arber Xhekaj. I think he's a monster. And yeah, he's a great fighter as well, but actually kind of is able to back it up
He
a
is
little
against
bit with a
Dakota
little bit of
Mermist.
production.
Yeah, he had a fight with Dakota Mermist for the Maple Leafs and absolutely walloped him. You need to watch that if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'll give it a look. Yeah, I'll give it a look.
But yeah, any more on the Canadiens, or shall we move on?
No, we'll move on.
So the sixth team in this division, and this is where it sort of cuts off on being the teams that seem to be in it, and sort of the rest at the moment. But yeah, the Florida Panthers in sixth, 23 points. They've had a fairly decent week. A wild game against the Canucks, winning 8-5 before then beating the Devils 1-0 at home, and then going on the road and losing to the Oilers 6-3. So a bit yo-yo with the Florida Panthers. I still don't think they're going to be cutting it out this year either. I think it's the similar conversations to the ones we've already had with them.
Yeah, agreed. We had that conversation, did we, on our power rankings episode of, I think if any team's earned the right to take a year off and get everyone fit and healthy, it's this Florida Panthers team. But I mean, yeah, a decent week for them. Obviously, 2 wins from 3. Nice to see Sam Reinhart as well, kind of stepping up with 5 points in those games as well. He's on 18 points in 21 games for the season, which I think maybe isn't where he would like to be. But I think as well what you get from Reinhart in a defensive manner as well in his two-way ability. Obviously, he was a Selke Trophy nominee last year, which is rare for a winger, especially that's usually kind of a centres only award. But yeah, he's a great two-way player, and nice to see him get a bit of production there. But yeah, I wouldn't even say concerned about this Florida Panthers team. Like, even if they are absolutely naff this year, like, it doesn't even bother me, because I'm just like, well, yeah, you've gone and won 2 cups, and there's so many extra kind of extenuating circumstances for it. They've lost arguably their 2 best players for, Barkov for the whole year, Tkachuk for for a large portion of it. Like, I don't really know kind of what people were maybe expecting.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I just think a team who's sort of made Stanley Cup playoffs so often now, you'd expect them to find a way and just sort of work it out. But I mean, at this time yet, they could well do so. Matthew might be back in the next sort of month or so. Might give them the spark back to enable them to push on. But I just think they're sort of middle of the road team this year. I don't think they ain't got the same sparkle as they did in years prior.
No, and again, we're another week where that first round pick for this year's draft that they gave to Chicago is looking better by the week.
It's definitely looking good for you. Right, the final 2 teams then of this episode, and you would think that the last team that we would talk about would be the Buffalo Sabres, but they're not, because they've got off the bottom of the Atlantic, up 1 spot, 22 points, 3 wins, 1 loss this week. Yeah, the Sabres are doing enough to stay kind of relevant, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, what a weird week they had. I mean, the one game they lost 6-2 to the Calgary Flames, which is one of the, probably one of the teams that you would have thought they could have maybe gone and beaten. But yeah, beating the Oilers 5-1, beating the Blackhawks 9-3, and beating the Hurricanes 4-1, like no one would have seen that coming. Rasmus Dahlin back in the lineup, back in the fold with 5 assists on the week, and 5 assists in Matt's fantasy team. As well as Tage Thompson getting 4 goals and an assist as well. So yeah, they've had a really good week. I will tip my cap to Buffalo for this week. I don't think it means much in the long term, but happy to be proven wrong. But yeah, really, really weird week, and I don't feel like we often get an opportunity to actually put any sort of praise on the Sabres. So I will say, good job.
Good job, Buffalo. Now, keep it up, and we might treat you more seriously, I think.
Yeah, kind of like when an adult like pats a kid on the head and like ruffles their hair, like, oh, good job. Yeah, that's
good job.
Oh, look at you.
Great,
you did that all by yourself. Like, so proud of you. Yeah. And then they go and then next week they will just be out and about and just violently shit themselves. But we never know what's going to happen with Buffalo, do we?
No.
Oh dear.
This goes on to the last team then. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the last team we're going to talk about in an episode. Can you believe it? Down a spot, 21 points on the year. They're just not cutting the mustard, are they? Which is just so strange because all their players, star players, are racking in the points, but they just keep on losing. Now this week they've done the 3 games, 3 points, albeit they beat the Blues in overtime 3-2. Lost against the Blue Jackets in overtime 3-2, and then lost against the Habs 5-2 in regulation. So, the panic station is almost like the Edmonton Oilers for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at them sat on 21 points at the bottom of the division. Okay, they're 6 points off of the top spot. So, I think this is probably the division where the gulf between the bottom and the top is kind of the smallest. But I'm just seeing nothing from Toronto at the moment suggests that they're going to go on any sort of run. They've just been, it's been really rough. Obviously, they've given Joseph Woll kind of the bulk of the starts, and he had a 900 plus save percentage in those 2 overtime games against the Blues and the Blue Jackets, but yeah, they're just not. I think they're missing Austin Matthews. Yeah, it's just been turgid. But I think they're in a similar position to Edmonton. I think where you look at them and you think they're going to start panicking, and they're going to kind of start looking at the emergency button and try and figure something out.
Yeah, what levers do you pull if you're Toronto, because they're not going to be happy? Nossi Marner isn't lighting it up for Vegas, but you think, are they missing a Marner-sized piece? Obviously, Matthews being injured is impacting my fantasy team as well as their season. But even when he was playing, he wasn't really dominating as we'd expect him to. It's just been the Nylander show. But John Tavares is just showing what an ageless wonder he is. With 27 points, 22 games, I think he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't necessarily know that you'd say Mitch Marner hasn't necessarily been lighting it up. I mean, he's still got 21 points in 21 games for Vegas this year. Granted, okay, he's only got 4 goals on the year, but I think he's been teeing Jack Eichel up a fair amount. Yeah, I think they are missing him, and that was always going to be a big loss. And I think you factor in the loss of Marner alongside, obviously, Nylander missed a couple of games, and Nye's missed a couple of games, and now Matthews is missing a few games. Like, it just hasn't really clicked for them this year. But yeah, they, again, similar to Edmonton, I know there's still a large amount of the season left, but they're going to have to start kind of figuring it out sooner rather than later. Because, you're around the corner from American Thanksgiving, and you don't want to find yourself too far out of a playoff spot at that point.
You don't, especially when other teams are going to cover that gap, and they are the team that are falling behind points-wise. Some of the other teams like Edmonton, who are only 3 or 4 points behind, kind of thing. Toronto Maple Leafs to find themselves a bit more than that. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, interesting place to finish, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I'll let you go through this week's top scorers. It's been a slight change, I think.
Yeah, it has. Now, would you believe it? The top point scorer this week is a defenseman for the Calgary Flames. Rasmus Anderson was 9 points. But top goal scorer this week is Ovechkin and Geekie, both with 5 goals. And I mean, we were remiss to mention the PBP award for penalty minutes is Mikko Rantanen with 39 minutes in a week. 39 minutes.
Yeah, that takes him up to 57. Takes him up to 57 for the year, and dethrones Tom Wilson as the season leader on penalty minutes. Yeah, he's had a thuggish week. But you're still seeing Nathan McKinnon out in front with 37 points on the year, closely followed by Macklin Celebrini with 34. McKinnon and Geekie currently on 17 goals apiece, followed behind them by Draisaitl, Horvat, and Celebrini on 13 as well. So, yeah, it's hotting up. McKinnon's still absolutely undeniable, and yeah, the Morgan Geekie, Rocket Richard trophy conversation starts now.
Yeah. What a great name for an award-winning goal scorer in a professional sports league.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like a pub league, doesn't it? But geeky with the goals.
Anything else from yourself, Nathaniel, or we good to lead it out
before I say some other daft?
Well, as always, guys, thank you very much for being with us. You can find us at X and at Instagram at the PBP Podcast. You can also get in contact with us on Gmail at penaltyboxperspective@gmail.com. If you've got any thoughts, feelings, requests for the show, if you've got any questions you want us to answer, we will look at doing like a mailbag show if anyone has any questions they want to fire in. As well, we're rolling round to, American Thanksgiving as well as the festive period in December. If you want to give us a nice festive present, you can give us a 5-star review on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That would really mean a lot to us, helps us propel us more into people's podcast feeds and hockey fans and British sport fans and everything, and it would mean a lot to us as well. So yeah, thank you very much as always for being on the ride with us. It's always appreciated.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Take care.